Good evening. We'd like to welcome you to the special Ogden City Council meeting for July 31st, 2012. Let the roll call reflect that all council members are present, and we'll now have Vice Chair Blair lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We'll now have a moment of silence. Thank you. First on the agenda is a wonderful opportunity for us to recognize one of our own, and we'd like to recognize Mavis Holly for becoming a certified administrative professional, and we're going to explain that a little bit. So we'd like to welcome Teresa Doubleday. Teresa is the Wasatch Chapter President of the IAAP, and I've asked her to take a moment and explain what all that is. And welcome, Teresa.
Thank you. As the president of the local Wasatch chapter of IAAP, come up here. I am pleased to inform you that Mavis Holly has earned the Certified Administrative Professional rating, or the CAP. The CAP rating is offered through the International Association of Administrative Professionals, which is the IAAP, the premier association for administrative professionals. To attain this rating, an individual must meet prescribed requirements for education and work experience and pass a comprehensive examination covering such subjects as communication, organization and planning, information distribution, records management, physical and information resources, document production, and financial functions, also human resources. I commend the Ogden City Council and Executive Director Bill Cook for their support of Mavis achieving this certification and present this plaque to her on behalf of IAAP. Thank you. Give me a hug. I'm going to shake your hand.
I just wanted to take a minute to thank my family, my director, Mr. Cook, and my fellow staff members for your continued support and encouragement while preparing for this certification. I honestly wasn't sure of what the outcome would be, but I was extremely pleased when I found out I passed the exam. I'm truly honored that you would take the time, Council, during this meeting to recognize my accomplishment. It truly is an honor. I'd also like to thank the Wasatch chapter of IAAP, and also Marianne is here, Marianne Bowles. She's the treasurer of our chapter, for coming out and supporting me during this presentation and presenting me with this plaque on behalf of IAAP. Thank you.
So Mavis, we want to get a picture.
We got to get a picture.
Sorry, it's the rule. It's the rule. Oh, okay.
So you better come down here too.
It's a coda. It's a.
Running away from the picture. How does this happen? I don't want to take a picture. Council members wanted me to introduce my guests. My husband Josh is here with my daughters Alex and Jessica, and then of course Teresa and Marianne from our Wasatch chapter.
In the middle.
Right. In the middle. Mavis, keep that down. Everybody listen. 1, 2, 3. Maybe one more. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, there you go. 4. Thank you.
And we truly are grateful for Mavis and all of her hard work. We call her the wizard of scheduling because she really can do some magic with that and getting us all together in the right places. So thank you for all you do, Mavis. And congratulations. Next on the agenda is approval of minutes. First on the agenda is minutes of the work session of February 7th and February 14th, 2012. Councilmember Van Huser.
Chair Garner, these are correct to the best of my recollection.
And the minutes of the work session of February 28th, 2012. Councilmember Heyer.
Yes, they do seem to reflect the content of that meeting to the best of my recollection.
The regular meeting of June 5th, 2012. Councilmember Wicks.
Thank you. I've reviewed those, and they are correct.
And the minutes of the work session of June 5th, 2012. Councilmember Gochner.
Thank you. I've reviewed those and found them to be accurate and would make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
We have a motion from Councilmember Gochner and a second from Councilmember Van Huser to adopt these minutes. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. These minutes are approved. Next is reports from the administration. Mr. Johnson.
We have Mr. Tom Kostopoulos who will be handling the first issue.
Chairman, council members, today I would like to propose a change in the existing ORCA fund that we established back in 2008. The process began in 2007. The fund was originally designed to assist businesses that were looking at moving to Ogden and making that move. And during that particular period, over those last nearly 5 years, it's been 4 years, but during that particular period, we've helped a few companies move, Hartski, Adrax, and also was helpful in getting the Ogden Rocks project off the ground. With that project and with those particular projects in front of us, we have had an opportunity with the expansion of the airport. And so what we have suggested to the council is that we modify the program and make some general changes to the program that would allow us to support the airport. So the name of the program we would change to the Relocation Assistance Program, the RAP program. The program guidelines will be modified to allow us to service the Ogden-Hinckley Airport for commercial air service only. The program guidelines will allow us to do cooperative advertising. Unlike the existing program, which is a loan, this would allow us to basically expand a grant primarily in this case for support of the Allegiant project, which I wanted to point out the Allegiant has already spent significantly more money than what we've anticipated. They've already in various programs that I think some of you have seen either here or in Mesa. Bookings have come along. 2 flights now are about 50% booked through the first 2 flights. And so we have felt that it was very important that we support the initial build of the market and the recognition of the Ogden-Hinckley Airport in a way that the market catchment area, which we call the catchment area, which is from Bountiful and all the way up north, can be aware that we are currently offering commercial air flights in the hopes that we are able to build off the foundation of this initial flight to additional flights. As you can imagine, we want this first leg to be successful so we can have opportunities at a second leg. So, so the way it's proposed, the City Council will have the option to waive the interest and repayment on this particular and to use these as match funds in this particular case for this first set of flights. The City Council had then asked the questions as we make these particular additions. The requested change of the program and describe the need for expanding the guidelines to include the cooperative advertising. Basically, as part of the incentive in order to get Allegiant into the market, we had agreed that we would participate to a certain degree, an undefined degree, in the marketing of that particular project. So we wanted to make sure that we did that with this particular fund, but that in case we felt that there were any gaps in approaching the market, that we had some additional money to help out that would also be considered part of the cooperative advertising. So it's important to us because as we look at it obviously from a tourism standpoint, increasing tourism, but we also look at it from an economic development standpoint, which means basically creating a direct gateway into the city of Ogden and being able to have potential recruited companies be able to fly directly here. So that's why we've wanted to do the requested changes so that we could meet the need. The other thing is right now is that based on this program and the timeframes that we have, which is we're trying to be ready for September flights, this was our most available source of capital to meet this particular need. The second question is, please explain the vision for cooperative advertising and how it will benefit the city. I think the benefits to the city, besides the obvious one, which are basically tourism oriented and bring people to them, the other benefits are just opening the airport and having this chance after all these decades to have a fully functional airport that really makes us into a different class of city. If you look at it, it gives us a distinct competitive advantage over every other place but Salt Lake City and Provo, who are the only other places, and St. George, but those are the ones along the Wasatch Front. It basically then gives us an identifier, and so it makes our brand all that more valuable in the marketplace. And so as we go out and promote outdoor recreation and those types of things that we have done, it gives us that direct portal to establish that. We think it's well worth the investment, and the investment will be multiplied over time. So if we open up this particular flight, it should then establish the opportunity to open up other routes. And the routes that have been discussed so far are Las Vegas and into California, and then hopefully gives us a link into someday, if we get very lucky, into Hawaii. It's not a direct flight, but it would give us a chance to link to that. So we think that's fairly important for commerce and also further recognition to the city. So with that, I'm welcome to answer any questions that you might have of me.
I have a question for you, Mr. Christopoulos. As far as the fund, the well from which this comes, there's some money in there now that would be, if it's used as a grant rather than a loan, that money then leaves that fund. How does that fund get replenished?
Doesn't. The fund was always a terminal fund. It was always established at $200,000. So once the funds were either lent or used, the fund would become terminal. We still have earnings that may come back from the other particular loans that we made. Those will still be there, but those have quite a while to go out and come back again. So we would just look at this as a single source use for the money.
Tom, do you, as one of the benefits of the city, can you tell me, or do you have a guess of how many jobs this is going to bring into the city? I have what my hopes are, and I'd even hate to set those hopes that are out there. When you go out in economic development, there are some things that you can trace, and you can basically say it will create X jobs. If we bring in Home Depot or somebody else, we know how many jobs it'll create. This creates jobs in increased tourism at the hotel, at the restaurants, and other visits. I can't tell you how many companies will come as a result of having an open door and having a direct access flight. I just don't know. I can tell you that there are many that won't come if we don't. I can tell you that we will lose a lot of potential tourism directly at our doorstep that we won't. So this is a little bit different as far as being able to trace an exact job. So I'd hate to even hazard a guess. My hope is it becomes a platform on which then I can 5 years from now come back to you and say, okay, this company came because they had airport access. This company came airport access. But it would be really speculative of me to even guess. So, any other questions? Okay, thank you. Further discussion?
If there's no further discussion, I'll make a motion to approve this ordinance.
I second it.
We have a motion from Councilmember Gochner and a second from Councilmember Stevens to adopt this resolution. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Gochner?
Aye.
Councilmember Heyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens?
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier?
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks?
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair?
Aye.
Chair Garner?
Aye. This passes. Thank you. Next on the agenda is continuing with the reports from administration, and it's the Ogden Canyon Waterline Bond. Mr. Johnson.
Louis Young is our financial advisor on our bonding, and Cody Dieter is here representing Louis Young tonight to describe what we are proposing. We've never seen him before, so.
Good evening, Council. It's good to see you again. Janine Ellersmith provided 6 questions to address tonight, so I'll address those and answer any questions along the way or afterwards, whatever your pleasure. The first question was, please review the proposed parameters of the Series 2012 bond issue. The parameters that are outlined in the parameters resolution, which will be considered later, is to issue bonds not to exceed $4.5 million at an interest rate not to exceed 3%, a maturity of no more than 25 years, and a discount on the bonds, par amount of the bonds of not to exceed 98%. The reason that the terms of the bonds have basically been set, there's very little reason that they would change. You're going to issue $4 million. You have approval to issue $4 million that will be purchased by Division of Environmental Quality at 2.26%. It'll be a 20-year loan at 100%. The reason we recommend to have that extra cushion is if for some reason there's an advantageous reason to change any of those slightly, it gives you the headroom and the opportunity to do that in the off chance that that might occur. It's very unlikely when you're dealing with the state, but when you're dealing with public market, sometimes that happens because of the function of the market. The second question are, what are the estimated issuance costs for the 2012 bond issue? We have estimated those at $90,000 or 2.25% of the bond proceeds. There's an origination fee with the Division of Environmental Quality, a 1% origination fee, so that's a $40,000 cost. The state also has legal counsel, so the Division of Environmental Quality has legal counsel that is a third-party legal counsel, and we've estimated their charge to be about $10,000. It could be slightly lower than that, but we've estimated that on the high side. Bond counsel, who is working on this transaction, Ballard Spahr, we estimate their fee at $20,000, and Louis Young, our fee at $20,000. Those are all estimated costs, but they will not be higher than that. Number 3, what are the approximate savings the city will achieve because the state's purchase of the bonds as opposed to a public offering in the market? We estimate that currently, based on your rating, you're rated A2 by Moody's. We think that if you went to the rating agencies, you could potentially have a higher rating, but we've assumed that A2 rating, and the estimated costs are about $280,000 over the life of the debt. When we originally looked at this loan from the Division of Environmental Quality, it was almost twice that much savings, but the market right now is at the lowest point in the history of the municipal bond market. This is a huge dip, and so the savings have reduced, but it's still better. It's about half a percentage point better going through the Division of Environmental Quality than going onto the public market. So hopefully those market conditions will continue as you approach the other potential bond issues that you have in the future, because that's a great time to borrow. The fifth question, may the city retire, number 4, will issuance of the Series 2012 bonds have any impact on the other outstanding water and sewer bonds? These bonds are being issued on parity, which means they have the same pledge as all of your other bonds. So you have to pay all of those at the same time. You can't choose or select any of the bonds to pay and not to pay. They're on complete parity. So there really is no impact on the other bonds other than you have to make your bond payment on all of the bonds. And you've gone through a very thorough and comprehensive look at your rates, and I think that you've planned thoroughly and sufficiently for making those bond payments in the future. So there's no adverse effect to your currently outstanding bonds. Number 5, may the city retire this debt at any time without penalty? The short answer is yes. You have a 30-day noticing period. This is a very flexible call feature. If you were to go to the market, the public market, you would have usually a 10-year call provision. I mean, you couldn't call the bonds for 10 years or retire them early for a 10-year window. So that adds significantly to the savings, even though a moment ago I said $280,000. If you were to pay for that call feature, if you were to issue bonds in the public market that were completely callable, you would probably see an additional interest rate expense that would push that $280,000 benefit to probably twice that much, because that's an extremely flexible call feature. That's one big advantage of going through the state. The last question, the indenture of trust allows the state to sell the city's 2012 bonds under certain conditions. The question is, has the state ever sold any of these bonds in the past, and what would be the impact to the city if they chose to do so? To our knowledge, at Lewis Young, the state has never done that. They've never sold their portfolio to a third party. They have, in some instances, repackaged those loans and used them as security to recapitalize their funding pool, but they've never sold those to a third party. And even if they did choose to do so, it would have no impact on your bonds. The rates and the terms are set when you issue them, and they don't change. It's very much like your mortgage. You may have, your mortgage lender may originate the loan and sell it to a third party, and they may in turn sell it to another fourth party, but the terms stay the same. They never change. So that would be the case here. Those are the 6 questions that Janine provided, and I would be happy to answer any other questions that the council may have at this time.
On our packet, it says that that the term is not to exceed 20 years, and I think you said 25. Is that?
Yes. The parameters resolution, the actual language says 25. As a practical matter, it won't be, the term of the bond that's been approved is 20 years. But.
One of the state requirements on their buying the bonds is the term will not exceed 20 years. So that's a state requirement as well.
And again, if there was ever some reason that, it may be very rare, but if there was some advantageous reason that we went to this, between now and when we closed and we saw some reason to extend that for, I can't think of why we would do that at this point, but it's nice to have the flexibility in case something happens and you go, oh, it would be nice to do it over 21 years for some reason. Then you have the ability to do that.
The 5 years is built in.
Yeah. Coming back to the board and asking.
War stories from Laura have always made her very cautious on the parameters resolutions, and we go through this on every one of these, but she likes to have a little more cushion in case something were to happen. That's very typical for her,
yes.
Even on pegging the rate. So
absolutely. I mean, one instance is when the Build America bond program came out a few years ago. You could issue taxable bonds and then get a subsidy from the state or from the federal government. In some of those instances, we had enough room in the parameters resolution because we pushed up the allowable interest rate to go to a taxable rate, which was 30% higher, and it allowed you not to have to come back. You could jump into the market when the rates were favorable. We don't expect something like that to happen, but why not be smart about it? Because ultimately, the pricing committee that you established today, if you approve the parameters resolution, you have final say. It's not as if this is the only time you're addressing this. So, yep.
Well, this time is the best to sell bonds on the market. Is that what you said?
In the public market right now, yes, absolutely. Yeah, this is the lowest rates have been in the history of the municipal bond market for the last 30, 40 years. Yeah.
Further questions for Mr. Dieter? Okay, thank you, Cody.
Welcome.
And further discussion?
I think we need to review some of the information that we had in the process of notifying the citizens in Ogden Canyon of the service that would be rendered during this particular period of time. What process we went through.
I would be more than happy to have Mr. Kenton come forward. He's been anxious to talk in council meeting anyway. He's our new water manager, so.
So part of the environmental that we had to do for this loan involves having open houses with residents that are affected by the project. So for some time, earlier in the year, I think in February, it was before I was involved with the project, we had an initial open house up there just to kind of get everybody's information where they think their water lines are at, and to give them kind of a heads up what they're expecting with the road being, impacted by the construction. And we got their input, and then we went back to the state and did some further work with them. In the meantime, we did in the initial open house, we gave them the website they could go to, the phone number that they could call and talk to somebody who's knowledgeable about the project to get information from them. We got the environmental approved, and then we had to have the other open house that's required by the environmental assessment, and we had that a couple weeks ago. And we sat down with them and showed them all the maps of the plans that we planned on constructing so they could see what the final product would be. Fielded all their questions for a couple hours, gave them information, gave them places they could go to find more information, contact info. I've fielded a few calls. Personally, they've just called my number, which is fine because the letters have been coming from me. So I'll answer their questions and let them know what's going on. So that's the involvement we've had with them, trying to keep them abreast on everything. Is there something else you were concerned about?
They understand that there would be periods of time when they'd be without water, is that correct?
Absolutely.
How do we correct that for them?
It's right now, we don't quite know what the impact is going to be. We're trying to lessen it. I say a week, we're hoping, I say a work week is what I should say, but we're hoping to lessen that. But they are aware that they will be without water. Part of the open house, we did let them all know that they would be without water, and they understand. That's the only line that feeds where they're at. We don't have any other options, but we're trying to minimize that as much as we can, feeding it from 2 directions and doing everything we can. But there's some situations where there's nothing we can do to avoid shutting them out of water. But there's other things we can do to provide water for them. And part of the reason we have this contract, the CMGC contract, is so we have the contractor that's going to be building the line on board now to help us with the design. So they've had a lot of valuable input on how to lessen the impacts of the construction for these residents up there. So we've been working with them, and they have a lot of really good ideas that we're finalizing so we can try and help out these residents so the impact to them is as little as possible. So
We have a startup date and possibly a finish date for the project?
We anticipate, as soon as the loan closes, we can start going forward with the construction. We anticipate that to happen in September, so we can get up there and get the contractor mobilized and start going. We anticipate being done probably in the road by June, assuming all goes well. The project will probably finish later in the season because of the water tank that is required up by the treatment plant. But the impact to the residents in terms of the road should be over towards the middle of summer next year. So that's what we anticipate now. Anything else? Anybody else have any questions? Okay.
Thank you. Any further discussion?
If there's no discussion, I will go ahead and make a motion that we adopt Resolution 2012-21 and set the public hearing for August 28th, 2012.
Second.
We have a motion from Vice Chair Blair and a second from Councilmember Heyer to adopt the resolution and set the public hearing for August 28, 2012. This is a roll call vote.
Councilmember Heyer.
Aye.
Councilmember Stevens.
Aye.
Councilmember Van Hoosier.
Aye.
Councilmember Wicks.
Aye.
Councilmember Gochner.
Aye.
Vice Chair Blair.
Aye.
Chair Garner.
Aye. This passes. Thank you. And good luck with the project. Next on the agenda is public comments. This is an opportunity to address the council regarding your concerns or ideas. Please state your name for the record and limit your comments to 3 minutes. In this form of government, all city personnel are the responsibility of the administration, not of the council. Please discuss any concerns you may have regarding staff with the mayor, chief administrative officer, or department directors. No public comments. Comments from administration.
Yes, I have 4 short things. Number 1, I'd like to excuse Mayor Caldwell. He is on vacation this week with his family and asked to be excused. I don't know that the weather he's having at Lake Powell he might wish he was here. Second thing is there's been a lot in the press lately about parking. We are trying to address some of these issues. Most of these parking issues are involving private parking lots. We had about 25 cars that were towed over the weekend from the former AOL parking lot. There are signs posted there that they're going to tow if you park there. I think they haven't for a long time, and suddenly one night they decided to give a towing company a lot of work. There's also some parking issues that have been on the parking lot directly south of the northeast corner of the Marriott parking block, where that private building is. Right next to it is they own that parking lot. It's a private lot. They have the right to charge. And we've had a few citizens who have come to farmers market and whatnot and received tickets. We're working right now trying to work through some of these issues, trying to work on maybe some publicity so people will know where they can park when they come down to a ball game, where they can park when they come to different issues. We're looking at maybe trying to put together some tent signs that have ballpark parking and find places around the city to try and help this issue. I just wanted to alert you that you've probably read a letter to the editor or two, and or have personally experienced such expenditure. I just wanted you to know that we are working on it. We've spent some time on it in the last few days, and we're trying to find some resolutions so that it isn't a negative for our citizens or for those visiting our city. Third thing, I just wanted to remind you that the farmers market has been more successful than ever before. It's going very, very well, and we encourage you to come and enjoy the farmers market. This week will be kind of a kickoff for the Tour of Utah. Tour of Utah individuals will start arriving during the weekend. There'll be a big party for the athletes when they get here on Monday afternoon. And there are a lot of activities for Tour of Utah, as we are the beginning city. We'll have a lot of hotel room nights. We have we'll see a lot of people in the restaurants. So we encourage you to come and to enjoy Tour of Utah. The send-off on Monday morning, I believe, is around 10 o'clock, and then they'll be back about 3:15, 3:30. We'll be live on Fox Sports channel for an hour. They'll be televising the finish of this leg of the Tour of Utah. Shortly after that, and the acknowledgement of the winners for the day, then the Worldwide on 25 will start on the 100 block of 25th Street. So we're hoping to that people will come for both and enjoy both. We're excited that you are able to join this year and have canceled council meetings so you can come and enjoy the Worldwide on 25. So we encourage you to be part of that. We think it's a wonderful opportunity in the community. This year they've chosen not to have as many road closures in the city as long, which I think will make people much happier. But we are told that they love coming here because our city knows how to put on an event and has the volunteers to put it on, and that it goes very, very well. So we're excited to have Tour of Utah here. And they will be also leaving Thursday from the junction, I think around 11-ish, 10:30, 11. I'm going off memory. And you're more than welcome to go for when they leave, when they have the start on Thursday morning also. Thank you. That's all I have.
Thank you. Comments from council staff?
Just one item. I just wanted to note for the record that the August 7th council meeting has been canceled, as Mr. Johnson just mentioned, so you can participate. So there'll be no council meetings that night. Thank you.
Thank you. And council members?
I have two things that I'd like to bring up, if it's okay. I'd like to commend Jay Louder and his crew, as I call them, because there's two significant things I think that were really important. The finishing of the cart paths, of course, at Mount Ogden, and I think all of you are aware that that was going on and done a fantastic job, and I've heard from golfers that it's just made a remarkable difference in the course. And the other one is the fire hydrant refurbishing. Some of these are on the council in '07, when they brought a report forward to us telling us how many fire hydrants they couldn't turn on because people had built up around them, and now this has been corrected. But it was scary to me to think that we could not get access to our own fire hydrants. So I think this is a big step, and I think it's a great thing that the city has done to make sure that we're all protected. So Jay, be sure to tell your guys thank you for both of those.
Other comments?
May I just add one thing to that? It's appropriate on the fire hydrants to thank the fire department too. They've worked very closely with the water department, and they've got a great program and a great partnership that they've put together on that.
I think they're the ones that did the initial survey and came back to the council back then and said, hey, we need some help with this. So absolutely.
And just finally, the last 2 weeks have been very busy for the city. We appreciate all the efforts and support for the rodeo, the parade, all the events that occurred. A lot of great work, and even rained on the 24th to cool everybody off. So thank you all very much. Okay, any further comments?
Motion to adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion from Councilmember Heyer and a second from Councilmember Van Hoosier to adjourn. This is a voice vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, meeting adjourned. A special redevelopment agency board meeting will be held immediately following this meeting. So we'll just wait for our recorder, and then we'll go into that meeting.